Clinical Monday, the best way to begin a healthy week. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to it. Live on Orampopin's Facebook page, it is at Orampopin. Also on X, it is at N_health with the hashtag Clinical Monday Stigma. And also on all our social media platforms like TikTok and them. Also www.popin.org gives you the behind the scenes. Don't forget, we are inviting your voice notes. I will put up a number on our social media where you can send a voice note. You can ask any clinical question that you might have, or anything really that is health related that you might be battling with, and we will give you our clinicians will give you advice in terms of how to deal with that. So make sure that you are here for that. But for this conversation, don't forget to leave your comments on the comment section or questions on the comment section below. Questions for my guest this morning, or any other guest for that matter. And thank you so much for joining us. I didn't even introduce myself. My name is Nkosi, and joining me for this conversation as we shine the spotlight yet on HIV stigma, it is a social worker out at Orampop in Eguruleni, and their name is Vannesa. Witbooi. I deserve an audience, right? We need an audience. Maybe we can in the next put an audience. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. How are you feeling?
Okay.
We were talking about moods, and I was like, I'm not a morning person. In the morning, I'm terrible with moods. Like, is it a like, would it be considered as a problem if like I wake up and I'm moody all the time, like not every day, but every day after I'm like super moody?
Yes, it is a problem because I'm sure that you are dealing with a lot, because it can't be every day.
Right.
When you're just feeling down, no. You should have a coping mechanism.
Like music. You spoke about music, telling on music.
Yeah, that's my
what if music depresses me? Or what if the genre of music that I listen to is sort of like
change? Stop listening to music that has that sad lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I do actually. And I know I'm not the only one. But yeah, so we were talking about stigma though, and we know that stigma sort of like plays a role in terms of it being a barrier when it comes to HIV, or when it comes to people taking their medication, and somewhat it contributes to that because it also affects the 95. And I think we have spoken about this in the past, but I think we just have to revisit the conversation. Let's talk about that. Break it down to us. What then is stigma for those that don't know, or for those that have an idea but it's not quite clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stigma is a set of negative or unfair beliefs that people have, or the society have, about people.
Yeah.
And then when we talk of HIV stigma, it is negative attitudes, behaviors, or judgments that the society or other people would have towards people that are living with HIV or that are at risk of HIV. For example, believing that there's a certain group of people that can be infected with HIV.
Yeah. And I think we grew up thinking that even if you touch someone who is HIV, you will be HIV infected.
Exactly.
That is part of stigma, because I think we lacked even if the information was there, the information was there, but we just lacked the understanding which HIV is transmitted sexually or with blood, and but you can't touch someone and have stigma. And I think campaigns like My Friend Who's HIV Positive Is Still My Friend came about, and a lot of those. Is it a lack of information? Because the information is there, but there are people who still think like this.
No, I would say it's ignorance, because I believe that now there's so much information about HIV. When you go to health facilities, there are posters around, and there are also organizations that would do events on HIV. On social media, there are people always talking about HIV. So I'd say it's ignorance.
I think we are ignorance. We just have to deal with that because the information is there. But then how do we then, or rather how does, because in the intro I spoke about it being a barrier. So how does it hinder or affect the progress that is made? Because I think we've come a long way when you look at HIV and sort of like the kinds of strides or achievements that we've made in fighting and managing the infection rate, managing the disease, managing the spread, and how do you think it affects the kind of efforts that were taken in fighting HIV?
It affects it negatively, because now it affects the well-being and health of the people that are living with HIV by discouraging them from accessing health services, and also by staying in care
Yeah.
or adhering.
Yeah.
And it also affects those that are at risk of HIV
Yeah.
by discouraging them from accessing the HIV preventative tools
Yeah.
as well as testing. And it also makes it difficult for other people to talk openly with their sex partners
Yeah.
about the safer sex options.
Yeah. And you find people would then compromise instead of speaking about, HIV status or safer or preventative ways of engaging in safe sex. They'll just end up doing it, and because they're not, I don't want to say, perhaps maybe they're not empowered even to speak about these options of prevention. Let's use a condom.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you want to bring a condom into a conversation when you speak about sex, it's like, but why do you want us to talk about a condom?
Exactly.
It's because they are afraid.
They will say,
Yeah.
no, you are positive, that's why you want us to use a condom, all that.
Yeah. But I think it's a good thing that you want to bring a condom into the mix, It's not a bad thing. But I wanted to speak about, does it exist? Because I think it does exist, but I think how I can rephrase this question is, to what extent or how big is it? What's the impact of it? We know that it is there. People even are stigmatized when they use PrEP. They will be said, it will be said that you are promiscuous, you're sleeping around. Why do you want to use PrEP? This means that you are loose and all that, and they will use all these terms. But what's the impact of it? Like, how big is it? It's not just it does exist, but it could be worse. Yeah.
It exists, and I would say it exists everywhere, especially at healthcare facilities.
Yeah.
Most of the healthcare workers,
Yeah.
they should have been the one bringing the HIV people closer, making them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But they would be the one judging
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
giving those negative comments to the HIV people, and then now it makes it difficult for them to do what, to come and collect their medication, and then which affects what, adherence. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. I can totally understand. I agree with that, because it gets to a point where people are scared to go to these facilities and access healthcare, because like, I don't want to go to the clinic where I'm judged, where I know that if I go to a certain section, I know that I'm going there to collect my ARVs. So it's like, but I think we need to do better when it comes to that. So what kind of interventions are there to deal with the stigma surrounding HIV? What is it that is done to sort of like aid the situation?
I think we can start by involving people that are living with HIV in providing services.
Yeah.
This way they'll be assisting with empowering and also sensitizing maybe other service providers and other healthcare workers. In this way, it will reduce the stigma within the healthcare workers and the communities. And then we can also bring closer the institution to make them recognize the stigma within institutions. There should be support from management in making healthcare workers aware of different types of stigma that are happening within the institutions, so that at least they reduce the stigma activities that are happening around the facilities. We should also engage the communities. There should be community members that are trained so that they can provide support and care to those that are living with HIV or at risk of HIV, and then also to assist in like those people that are not able to disclose to their families or partners and friends about their HIV status.
So we need to sort of get the ball rolling when it comes to it, because I think we just live in an age where information is everywhere, and HIV is not looked at as a life crisis, like, oh my God, you're gonna die. We need to come to terms with that, and actually understand that it is quite manageable, and people can still have a quality of life, especially when we talk messaging like you equals you. But by all means, please join the conversation. Vannesa is still here for you to unpack this even more. What are some of the questions that you have when it comes to stigma? Have you been treated differently when it comes to, dealing with HIV? And what are some of the interventions that you believe need to be taken into to deal with stigma? Send it through your voice note. We welcome that on our national WhatsApp line. Also, you can leave your comment on the comment section below. Also on X, it is the hashtag Clinical Monday Stigma. And you can share these stories with us, because I think it is possible for us to share, and we can learn from one another when it comes to dealing with stigma and HIV. Do you think, Vannesa, that it's going, or I think you did say that it's lack of ignorance, but then how do we assist our clients that are dealing with stigma? So you touched on how people would be scared to access healthcare, in big institutions or health institutions because of the stigma within the institution. How do we aid them? What is it that we need to do to them to say, I'm HIV positive and I'm scared, but this person is saying I must do this, and I actually can do it for me to come back and not be a, what do they call them, treatment interrupters to come back into care. Yeah.
We can start by addressing misinformation and lack of education, lack of knowledge through education, and we can also start talking openly about the correct misconceptions that people have about those that are living with HIV. For example, how HIV is transmitted, because it will help a lot of people to know more about HIV. And then we can also be intentional and thoughtful with the words that we use. We should use supportive rather than stigmatizing language when we talk about HIV.
Yeah. I got you. And I think you touched on what we can do to end, but I want to say who's responsible then, to end stigma, because we know that it is there, the information is there, just that people are ignorant. Who are the important, I want to say, team players in this whole thing, in terms of us ending the stigma? Who needs to play part in making sure that we end the stigma?
I would say everyone, but when I have to pinpoint, it will be mainly healthcare workers, because that's where people go to access their healthcare services, and also the community, the society, because there's a lot of stigma there, and also at churches, at school. That's why I'm saying everyone.
Yeah. Everyone, let's play our part in ending the stigma. I think we've come so long, or we've come a long way when it comes to fighting HIV and actually fighting the spread, and actually maintain or rather managing the disease. So we just have to keep at it and make sure that we don't stigmatize people. Vannesa, Witbooi, social worker out in Nkosi, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Alrighty, until the next episode of Clinical Monday. See you then. Happy streaming. Bye.
Bye.